get our recorded. Good morning. This is Monday, August 2nd, the Tuftonboro Board of Selectmen's meeting. Let's begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is there any public input? Now, you all are here for,
For the fireworks.
For fireworks, okay, so you have an appointment with us in a few minutes,
Yes,
right?
yes, sir.
Okay, any public input?
You want to welcome Cammie to the board, please?
We can certainly do that.
Okay, let everybody know who she is.
Thank you. Our new administrative secretary, Cammie LaPierre. You can raise your hand for the camera. Welcome. All right. Let's move on to review and approval of minutes. First is public minutes from Monday, July 26th.
I'll move approval.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
And then we have two sets of non-public from the 26th, the 8:50 minutes
The 8:53.
and the 8:53 minutes. We have two sets.
So I'll move approval on both.
All right,
8:50 and 8:53.
I'll second. All in favor? Aye. I should mention that Selectman Pike is away this week, so we have an abbreviated board. Moving on to building department, Jack? Good morning.
Good morning. So we have 97 building permits, 23 new homes. That's more than last year, all year. We've done 311 inspections, and obviously the lawn sprinkler up front's all up and working like we need it. It runs.
All right. And do we know how to operate it? Did we get it?
Yeah, they're gonna come and actually get a cost from them to come winterize it and in the springtime, so it's about $100 each season, so.
Yeah.
It's all pretty much preset, so.
All right.
So we're over on
That was from the rot.
town office improvements. Do we have anything else going on?
Just we still have the money there for replacing the rest of the windows, and I'm sure there's gonna be rot further down towards the ground, so.
So is that in a warrant article that we got that money? Because we're at 916% right now.
I think it's encumbered from last
So,
year.
yeah, we encumbered money for those windows from last year, and we get like a little over 4,000.
So none of this $3,800 is going to be, was encumbered? It was-
No,
Okay.
it was over and above, just. It was fine.
So-
That was a surprise when
It was a surprise.
they got in there.
Okay. Cool. How's your truck running?
Okay,
Good.
thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Okay. Now we have the Hidden Valley Association here to talk with us about fireworks.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning. Hi, guys. I've never done anything like this, so I'm a little nervous.
No, don't be.
Thanks for putting us on the agenda. We appreciate it.
I'm
And
sorry, and your name, sir?
My name, I was just going to tell you that. My name's Tom McPhail. I am a resident at 7 Valley Road. Been living there full-time since 2012. I'm joined by Ed Davis, who's the president of our association up there, and Mike Townsley, who's one of our residents there as well, who's got some concerns based on the fireworks. And also, we have a resident lawyer who I think actually set up this all for us, Lynn Kleinberg. So thank you. I've been a full-time resident up there for a long time, not compared to a lot of people around here who boast 40, 50 years or so, but I've been there since 2012, but I did grow up in New England and used to spend my summers up here and chose to retire here after a long Air Force career and then with the Air Force. So, and I did just finish my 3-year term as the Lower Beach Pond Village District Commissioner as well, so I know a little bit about municipal things, but not a lot, just enough to get into trouble, I think. I've lived all over the country and even abroad, but we chose to retire back to New England where I grew up, and particularly to Tuftonboro because of my fond memories of summers up here. I just absolutely love it. We were thrilled to see how much of what I loved about this area had not changed in the 40 or 50 years I was away, which is remarkable because that's not the case in most of the country where things are changing on an exponential level almost. In fact, I spent 16 years in Alaska where every day there was a new building going up there because it was all new territory. So it was wonderful to come back. I truly missed and loved the small town lifestyle. I love the live free or die spirit up here of its residents, and I really, really love the generally frugal and friendly nature of Tuftonboro government. So we're just thrilled to be here. And it is that independent way of life and staunch preservation of it that we have come to admire and we now defend in our forever home. It is for this reason that I'm here today somewhat reluctantly, because what we are asking you to consider represents change. A small change, and no change at all to most Tuftonboro residents, but change nonetheless. And I know change is something that I'm not saying we don't like it, but we like things the way they are around here, and that's why we love it here. That small change we request is in regard to Tuftonboro's fireworks ordinance. And before I propose what we would like to see done, I think it's important to highlight why the board, our Hidden Valley Board, has a rule against fireworks, which the overwhelming majority of our residents support and agree is necessary. First of all, unlike most of Tuftonboro, Hidden Valley is a community of densely sited homes on half-acre lots. Tuftonboro's more rural acreage properties that exist beyond Hidden Valley allow plenty of room to do almost anything you want without disturbing or endangering neighbors. That is clearly not the case in Hidden Valley. Loud explosions disturb everyone in the community, and fiery debris resulting from mortar-fired fireworks, and there are people setting off mortar-fired fireworks from their porches, are landing on neighboring woods, roofs, and in the association streets, and even in our beloved Lower Beach Pond. It is more than just a nuisance to most people, but deeply disturbing to some, and a real danger under what we had the dry conditions before all this monsoon rains hit us. The second issue is that we have no fire hydrants in Hidden Valley to protect the 75 or so densely sited homes. In a dry time like existed before the July rains, a brush fire caused by an errant spark from a bottle rocket would likely build to a major conflagration involving many homes before the Tuftonboro and or Wolfboro fire departments were notified, drove to Lower Beach Pond to fill the tanker trucks, and then arrived on scene ready to fight the fire. The potential for loss to structures represents millions of dollars and damage to forests, wildlife, and potentially even fouling a pristine watershed that includes the Wolfboro water supply. It's a very real danger, I believe. Hidden Valley is transitioning, the third reason is transitioning from a summer recreational community that was built to be back in the 60s to really many more full-time residents now. It is now home to several veterans, including me, with at least one suffering from PTSD, which isn't me, but I do know of the one who does. Most settled in Hidden Valley because it had rules against fireworks. We also have young families increasingly moving there with school-aged children, and at least one family with a special needs child who is severely affected by loud explosions, as is her service dog, and that's Mike's experience. Many of our dog owners know the trauma that an unexpected explosion creates in their dog, and mine is under the bed shivering for the rest of the day. And I want to emphasize what we're having going on there is not fireworks on 4th of July evening, which we're all prepared for. This is people who are firing them off their porches at noontime on a Wednesday just for the fun of it. So it's very, very disturbing when you're outside going about your business and suddenly a mortar fire and firework goes on up over your head. The Hidden Valley Board has established a rule prohibiting fireworks. It's been in place for many, many, many years. Unfortunately, association rules, per our founding covenants and bylaws, apply only to common property, our roads, our beaches, etc. So the minority of fireworks-loving residents feel justified to ignore this prohibition, believing they are legally entitled to act as they please on their private property within Tuftonboro. The current Tuftonboro ordinance is on their side, and the effects of firework travels well beyond their property boundaries seems inconsequential to them. One may ask why not impose fines to enforce the association rules, But with volunteer association officers not backed by the force of law, the reality is a feckless rule that inevitably results in exacerbating resident and Hidden Valley Board conflict. Hidden Valley Property Owners Association was designed and empowered to maintain associated infrastructure, and that's all. This association has been in existence since 1966. They didn't think about these social and issues back then, and so it's merely a very simple association that's designed to keep the roads plowed and the beaches, taxes paid, and those type of things. Board enforcement through fines, we believe, would inevitably create even more animosity, disharmony, and on rare occasion, threats of violence requiring Tufton Borough Police involvement, and that's in fact what happened to Mike. Hidden Valley, the last reason we have is Hidden Valley is about 2/3 of its properties in Tufton Borough, as I'm sure you know, and 1/3 in Wolfboro. Wolfboro prohibits fireworks, as I'm sure you know, and their police will respond to complaints on that side of the subdivision or that side of the street. However, in the case of recent complaints, all the offenders have and historically have been on the Tufton Borough side of the line, and the fireworks issue is therefore complicated by differing laws from one side of the street to the other. So what would we as the association like to see happen? Hidden Valley is requesting a change to Tufton Borough's current fireworks ordinance that specifies a prohibition on fireworks within the Hidden Valley subdivision only. Don't want to affect the rest of the town, no need to do that in our opinion. This would align municipal ordinance with existing association rules and strengthen the association's enforcement by adding the potential for enforcement by Tufton Borough Police if and when necessary. We contend that enactment of this change would make Hidden Valley a more fire-safe and harmonious community and would ultimately reduce the use of Tufton Borough Police and fire resources. We believe mere notification of a fireworks prohibition of somebody lighting them off that we could say was backed by Tufton Borough ordinance and a police response would make that actual response very rare and unnecessary in most cases. Without the change, we believe the building conflict between a large majority of residents and a very small minority of frequent fireworks users will continue to escalate, as will the number of calls for Tufton Borough Police involvement. Thank you very much for your attention. Ed will be happy if you have any questions about our rules and bylaws. Mike can tell you what's personally happened to him, and we also have our lawyer who did some research on other towns in New Hampshire and how they've handled very similar situations, and she'd be glad to share that with you.
Well, I know for water purposes at least, you're a village district.
Yes, we are.
Is there any talk about expanding the scope of that village district authority to include?
I doubt it. As a former commissioner, we were having trouble even getting people to volunteer for the 3 commission positions, treasurer and clerk position. Very, very difficult. We own we own the spillway, and we try to emphasize to people our only job as commissioners up there was to control the level of the pond, and we wanted to stay out of all the other issues.
Well, you've got according to your testimony, you got some clause in your bylaws exempt or prohibiting fireworks on the roads, I guess, or
Right, or the beaches.
common property. And how hard would it be to expand that to private property?
Well, I think we would have to completely change our covenants and bylaws, because the bylaws specifically say they apply only to, it actually empowers the association to have one purpose only, and that's to maintain the infrastructure of Lower Beach Pond, of the Hidden Valley Association. To change that would take a large majority of voters in the valley to vote for it. We might be able to make that happen, but it also changes the entire nature of our covenants, which people have signed up to. In other words, I don't think, personally, myself, I would not have bought in there if it was the kind of association that told me how high my lawn had to be, or what I could do or can't do on my private property.
Can I respond to that, please? Because
Go ahead, sure.
you're talking about, because we've gotten the police involved before, and the issue isn't that, it's what do you do, right? So then what do? You fine them. So then it makes it where someone can pay for it and just say, fine, I don't care, because I'm defined, I just keep on paying. So we're not asking for money, we're not asking to lien their properties, we just want this to stop. We want a fair environment where we could live peacefully. And because we've looked into it and we've talked to the police, they say that there's no restrictions in Tufton Borough for fireworks. So we're asking now for us to at least now say, no, there is. That's why. So I think even if it said nothing on private property, because Tufton Borough allows it, we can't do anything about it. Our law does not, or rules don't restrict it, you guys do. So that's the big issue
So,
here.
so you could have covenants or bylaws that restrict it. You're right. The association's remedy is through the legal system, just like lots of other violations. And it's a long and ends up being costly situation.
And it ends up breaking down the harmonious nature of the association, which you really need to have to make an association like that work. It's all volunteers. And, you know, that association has been successful for many years because we all basically got along. And this has become a very divisive issue, which is actually creating threats of violence. That it's breaking down that whole community. That community can't work that way. It really can't. It has to have a certain amount of get along, and you know what I'm trying to say. And if the board starts being a police department, it's not going to work. And there's a lot of people who wouldn't even volunteer for the board if it would become that, because that's not what they're signing up to do, is to enforce law. And there's guys up there, there's some people who live up there that are going to take any restriction you put upon them as very, very seriously. And you don't want to show up at their front door with a fine notice. I'm not going to.
I guess a couple of issues crop up. I mean, this is the first time I've talked about it. I mean, there are problems with spot zoning. I mean, I don't want to get into a legal issue or a legal fight with 2 or 3 of your fellow residents and cost the town a bunch of legal fees. But let's say we can overcome that. We can't, or don't, I suppose we could, but we don't, by policy, enact regulations like you're asking for without a vote of the town. So nothing would happen until next March. And probably it would have to come in as a petition warrant article. And somebody would have to explain what was going on to the voters at town meeting. Because we're just gonna get the slippery slope story where, oh, okay, you're gonna ban them
Yeah, but no, I
in Hidden
understand.
Valley and now all
I've
this.
been to enough town meetings, I
Well,
understand.
sure, and there are other areas,
That are similar.
communities within Tuftonboro that are similar close quarters. Not a lot, you're right, most of the town doesn't fall within that. I think where you were going with respect to the Hidden Valley district was fire protection. Is that what you were?
Well, part of it is
Yeah, I mean,
well,
you
first of all,
mentioned-
I wrote down that you don't have a hydrant, which surprised me. I would think
Yeah,
that
we
there would be a hydrant into Lower Beach Pond.
There's been proposals for a dry hydrant, but
Right.
Yeah.
And that
Because we have dry hydrant, I have one on my property, I mean, they're everywhere, a lot of places. But I'm wondering if, and you've got an attorney on staff, if somehow we could word the warrant article that you're proposing to be for the Hidden Valley
so that's exactly what we want.
Village. Yeah, but
Oh, village district.
because the problem that we're gonna run into is then all of a sudden we've got Mount Shadows, we've got, I don't know, Lane's End,
See, and
North Country Village.
And the issue then starts to affect the William Lawrence Camp, who has an annual 4th of July fireworks display, which nobody objects to because it's expected, it's on the other side of the
Plus
lake.
you can watch it. from your
You've got
porch.
David Hadley up there with 100+ acres of land, who, I don't care if he fires.
No,
off
and
fireworks.
I'm not suggesting that we're gonna do a town-wide ban on fireworks.
No, I would never expect that.
But I'm
Nobody
trying to
wants
fit
that.
it into a mold that doesn't threaten to creep out into the larger community without a lot more talk.
So, my name's Ed Davis. I am the president. No one else wants the job. But anyway, I am an assessor in my town for 46 years, and I'm familiar with the petitioning. So you're looking at the best way to do it, as far as you see, is a citizen's petition. sent to you,
Right.
written in a way that it's voted and put on the warrant of a vote for the town meeting. I understand that.
I mean, we can't create the warrant article.
No, we'll do that.
It's not
We'll do that.
townwide.
I don't have a problem with that.
So there's two ways that articles get on the warrant. One is that this board
Correct.
puts it on the warrant. The other one is that somebody submits a petition and it goes on the warrant.
How many signatures do you need on that petition? And I'm sure
I
it has
think
to be
it's 25.
25?
25
That would be a problem.
registered voters in town.
Yep, I understand that, because I'm,
And if you're gonna do a petition article, I would suggest that, because what we run into more often than not is that an article is not worded in a way that, if it's passed, will provide the intent. Either the wording is such that it doesn't, it's not gonna have the force of law.
correct.
In the
And
end.
it can
those,
be reviewed, and we have all our warrant articles reviewed by Department of Revenue Administration, which has a division that
Okay.
reviews warrant articles.
So they would come back and say,
Change this.
change this, change that, which is not a problem.
but the time to do it is before you start getting signatures.
No,
And the reason for that is
Then they needed to change it.
when you put a petition together and people are signing it, and they're signing for specific wording that's in that article.
Yep.
So often what happens is somebody that submits a petition article that's, let's say the board is not enthusiastic about, they don't want to present it until the deadline,
hour.
okay? So they bring it in at 4 o'clock on the last day that it can be submitted and make the warrant, and it's defective. At that point, the only opportunity you have to correct the defect is on the floor of town meeting, which just makes it that much messier.
Yep.
So, and I always encourage people that if they're thinking about putting a petition article on the warrant, even if it's something that we don't like, come in early before you start putting all this stuff together, get your wording right. I think there's this idea that if we know that something that from our perspective is adverse is coming, that we're going to do what we can to thwart it. But by law, we have no opportunity to change a petition article. We have no opportunity to disallow it being on the warrant.
Yeah, but
It
you
goes on-
can speak against it on the town floor.
Well, that's,
Sure.
sure. of
And a lot
course.
of times, the vote goes the way the selectmen.
Sometimes it does,
She's
sometimes it doesn't.
recognized.
You don't
you're
get to
right.
our town meetings.
Yeah, you're right. No,
I have a question. So are you saying that at this point, what you want to entertain is for the town to decide, right? Not that you have the power to exclude Hidden Valley from the fireworks being permitted. Is that correct? I just want to understand.
So this board has some fairly broad authority to enact ordinances, okay? And historically, this board has used that particular power very advisedly. So if it's anything that's going to make let's say an initial change in the way things are done in the town, we take it to the voters rather than.
Got it. And you would suggest that the particular petition be tailored specifically for Hidden Valley, not saying the following. I just want to follow you. That fireworks is permitted except if a homeowners association elects to not have it, because that would cause more. I just want to get some
The broader
guidance.
you make it, the
Right.
harder it is to get.
Okay, I got it. So it would be tailored
Excuse
to
me.
our homeowners association and we would send it to you to say, is this within the scope of, because we want to make sure it gets passed. Is that what you're saying at this point? And you could guide us if it's too narrow or if the language is.
Right, we're not gonna guide you. It's
Well, not
the
guide, I just wanna
state of New
understand.
Hampshire will
DRA
guide
does,
us.
yeah.
Okay.
Because we can't, as a board, can't make any changes to your.
No, I understand, but I want to make sure though that if we have it specific and you're like, we don't have any opinion whatsoever, but this is, if it's passed the way it is, it is legal, like, right? Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
you want to have an enforceable.
Got it,
warrant
okay.
article.
So you need to have that before signatures go on it to say this is what.
Yeah, because
If there's a defect in
Got
the
it.
wording and it's
Got
signed,
it.
then the only remedy is on the floor of town meeting.
Or
Or you
get
have
all
to correct the defect and get new signatures.
And then how long before the vote in March would we have to submit this?
The deadline is normally about a month before. I don't have the specific date, but we have to issue the warrant by so many days before town meeting. I don't remember what it is. So, in the timeline that's in the RSA's, it specifies when election articles have to be submitted. And it's not a long time before when we have to post the warrant, but
And who would you suggest that, to say like, is this within, that if I or somebody would submit it, who would we submit it to? Just say.
To
does this
review it
fall-
first.
To review it, like, does this work or not? Not, no political opinion, but would this, if on its face, be okay? Who would we
Right,
submit
you'd
that
bring
to?
it, you'd bring it here,
Okay,
and then one of our executive secretaries would send it to Concord
okay,
for review, and then get comment.
Similar to the water.
got it,
system.
okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, same.
So we can hand it and say, this is what we want, and then someone in Concord would say yes or no, here are the changes to the words.
Yeah, this is where it works, this is where it doesn't work.
Okay,
or
great.
It all works.
Good,
It
okay.
doesn't-
Okay, that works, because we did,
Mike Townsley, Hidden Valley Association member. I've been coming to Hidden Valley since 1985. I've owned property for 17 years there, right across from the Second Beach. Because I come up mostly on the weekends or every other weekend, even though I own property and pay taxes, I still think of myself as a guest to the community. So try to be respectful to the neighbors. I think a lot of the problems that this ordinance could correct is the people that come up on the weekends or maybe once a month. And what they do is they're actually affecting the lifestyle of the permanent residents of the valley of Tuftonboro. And I think that when you have individuals that come up 3 or 4 times a year or more, and every time they come, they bring those mortars. And they don't just do it on the 4th of July, they're doing it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 10 o'clock in the morning. Midnight. Those are the problems that I think the ordinance would eliminate. It would help us not have police responses for safety issues, because most of the mortars that have been launched recently are off a deck with a tree canopy above. They're getting deflected, either landing in the street or landing up against somebody else's house, which is a fire safety hazard. I spent 15 years full-time on a fire department in a city and responded to multiple calls of this nature. And it's a waste of service when you respond to something like that, when you may have to respond to a medical that's more pressing setting. I do appreciate the police department coming up. Officer Gillis is who I spoke to as she was driving by. She was up there for 6 other complaints for the same reason. Of course, most houses have cameras up there. Fortunately, it caught this individual saying some things that weren't really appropriate. But that being said, I think that situation has been handled. And I do, like I say, appreciate the police department coming up and dealing with and speaking with the people of the community that call. But I really think that people that come up on the weekends, or if somebody's renting a place from somebody up there, if that ordinance is there, you know, it will eliminate, I think, nuisance calls to the police department, and it'll help out the community, especially the full-time residents, because it isn't the full-time residents that are doing these fireworks, but they have to deal with it, and they live there all year, and they have to take the abuse of a handful of individuals that do this, you know, if they're coming up for the 2 months every weekend in the summertime, and the full-time members have to listen to that, and I don't think it's fair to the taxpayers of Tufton Borough.
16 in the summer.
So,
Yeah.
I gotta put it
Yeah.
I have just one quick question though. So people who are outside of Hidden Valley have an opinion as to whether
yes.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Even
So-
though they're not impacted because the houses
So-
are close.
So
Well, that's why I
you're asking for a town action,
Right.
and the legislative body is all of the registered voters in the town. So
Okay.
they're the ones who decide one way or the other.
Okay.
And, you know, that's,
And that's why I brought up the village.
that's why, you know, a petition article, I'm sure you can have a spokesman for the petition, the petitioner or somebody,
Excuse me.
make the case at town meeting to support it.
Okay, got it.
Excuse me, Bill. I came in late on this. I deal with fireworks all the time with my business. And if you're talking about something that's going to relate, that will impact the town, then I think it should just impact their own association.
That's what it's, that's all we're asking.
We deal with.
Yeah, we agree with
We deal
you.
with our fire chief.
Yeah, we agree with you. We
have major,
don't want to impact.
We have major fireworks at Lane's End.
No, we're not going there,
Okay,
sir.
and I control my people because it's in all the leases that they cannot have them, firearms or fireworks. Even though the state of New Hampshire, by the way, does permit anybody to shoot off anything that can be bought in those stores.
That's correct.
And that's the ruling, but we control it. And then we have to meet with Adam to set up safety barriers, and there are only certain times that we allow it to be done.
All right.
And we just had one. We just had our 75
Okay,
years in
thank you.
business, and we had a fireworks one
So-
on Saturday evening.
Yeah.
There's no other internal mechanism for you to handle this, I guess. I mean, the problem I see is a total ban is kind of a dry
Well, I think
No,
the problem is the police, what we call the police,
Right.
who've been terrific. I feel like their hands have been tied, right? Because they say that Tufton Borough allows it. And then they'll say, well, don't you have bylaws? We say, yes, but that's a financial penalty, right? So which to me, I always feel like, or if it's a financial penalty and someone just doesn't care, they'll just pay, right? Versus someone who doesn't have money. But it's a big mechanism for us because that's lawyers and all kinds of things. So it also hurts the town. We just want to have it be
Well,
none,
and,
right?
and depending upon how your bylaws are set up, you may not have to go through the legal system. You just assess the fines, and if they don't pay it, you lien the property, and sooner or later the money comes in. You're right. I mean, it's
It just seems as though if it's a community, you should be able to come up with a community
We
solution.
wish, right?
But if you can't-
I wish we weren't here. I have to tell you, this is the last place, no offense, we like you, but
Yep.
we don't.
Yes,
I've owned my property in Hidden Valley for 36 years now. When I came up here, Linda Dawson was the president of the association. It's hard to get people to volunteer for these boards. And if you look at our board members, they're all a lot of them are in my age range.
well, I will
No
tell
one
you
wants to
that
do anything.
it's hard to get people to volunteer for town boards, commissions, and
Yeah,
committees.
no, I see that too.
It's you know, people are doing their own thing, and
I kind of figured that this was gonna go the petition way, because I see it in my town all the time. I don't have a problem with that, because I think there's no problem. I've been to your meetings before, and I can speak, but I can't vote, because I don't live
That's
here
correct.
year-round, which is fine. So, doing the petition, getting it into you before the end of the year, and turning around and saying, this is what they'd like to present, can you have it checked for us? And they come back with the corrections, we'll do the corrections, and then we'll go up and get the signatures. And we got more than enough in the valley to meet the 25.
Yeah, just make sure they're all.
They have to be
All registered voters.
That's what I'm saying.
In Tufton.
No, I'm saying full-time residents, I understand that.
Registered voters.
Yeah.
Do you have a sample of anything that you give out to people that would look like it would be on
Not
this?
like
No?
this.
Well, just grab, and I'm sure there's some on the table out there.
It's similar to when we dealt with the water
Annual
system,
report.
it goes to
There's
Concord.
a number
and they
of
give the A.
warrant
I know.
articles written
Yeah.
Okay,
and passed. There was actually a couple of petition warrants.
perfect, okay, it's out there.
And I would suggest also, you've done some research, you know, there are other communities
Yes.
that have an ordinance.
Yes.
So if you have an ordinance that works someplace else, that might be a good basis for you to use
Okay,
to word your
okay.
We got it.
request.
I just want everybody to understand that's watching on TV. We only concerned with our association, we don't want anything passed that's gonna affect anybody else, we just want it for ourselves, that's it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I will say this, the ordinance, our rules and regulations that we put together over the years, no fireworks has been on that they were on it when I came here. Also, when people buy homes or are looking to buy homes, they get copies of the bylaws. They get copies of the covenants of the association.
Right.
So when someone buys in there, they know what's going on
Is
ahead of
there-
time. They just choose to ignore it.
Do you have signage? I mean, I don't know.
We got signage on some things, but not on fireworks.
And that might be a place to go this year. Just
Yeah.
get some signage up there. If you
Well, it's
can.
quiet right now.
Alright, thank you very
Quiet
much.
right now.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for your
Thanks for
time.
coming. in.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good day, stay dry, for now.
Thank you.
Supposed to be nice today, enjoy the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up, David Ladd.
Come on up here. We're here, both Peter Ford and myself, David Ladd, to represent River Reach and the situations that we presently have. And to start off, what we do have, as you know, the town has a public launch ramp there, which was recently rebuilt. Used to be down at the end of the roadway. And the problem we have is, I'll give you some pictures to note this, is infringement on our property of people turning and getting very vocal. Peter can contest to this. He uses it more than myself. I have a slip there, but it's leased to someone else. I used to have 4, I'm down to 1. Peter has 2. We're here to represent the entire 11 people. We pay about $9,000-10,000 a year to the taxes of the town. And we've had problems recently in the last year, is just like they're finding, people aren't what they were 10 years ago. And what they're doing is they're coming in, parking their boats to unload and everything and to set up in our area. And when, be it Dan, who's our president, who has the one slip that's contiguous to the launch ramp, which you people use the slip the same he uses. When they went to go move their cars, and I think people, can you inject on that? Has your wife been accosted? He can give the mild one, and then I'll give you the.
Well, yeah, it's been a steady erosion in the rights that we have as owners of the property to use and enjoy our property. And if you envision people coming in to launch their boat and they can pull in very easily, quickly, make a circle and launch their boat, that has the least impact on us. But over time, people are using, like David said, our parking area as a staging area. They'll set up their sailboats. It takes them about 30 minutes and they're blocking every single parking space. And when we have assigned spaces, we come into park and you ask them to move, they get mad at us. And the way that when we have to park and people are coming in and they want to turn their boat around, and if one of our vehicles is impeding them in any way, they will verbally accost us as owners of the property and say, we have no right to park there, we need to move, we're making it harder for them to park. It's just been a steady erosion over time of the enjoyment that we have of our own private property from people who are assuming that that's town property and they have a right to do anything that they want there.
Excuse me.
And it is a public area, and over the years, we have approached the town about such things as putting in trash cans, and the town has refused to do that. So we have our own trash barrel there, and what the public is doing is they're coming over and they're dumping their trash in there, which our trash person won't pick up. And so our solution was to put a lock on it, and now people are cutting the lock. So we feel like we need to take some steps to delineate that property as private property, and take back some of the rights that we have to it.
We had one other person there that, who went to back their car out, and the person got a lot of descriptive adjectives, which I've been scolded at times when I've used them before. And basically, I think it came down to myself and Dan took the survey map here, and we conservatively put the lines down through there, back actually, not actually blocking what is actually legally ours, actually putting that line and then putting those, made up those little planters to try to give a note. Mind you, Dan and I did that last Sunday. And in putting them there, before we had them there, we're just putting them, one gentleman came in with his boat, whipped right into our parking lot, stopped. And he said, "What's happening?" He says, "We're taking back our land." "Oh, well, what can I do?" He was very nice, complete gentleman. He said, "You're welcome to launch it now, but please note you're gonna have to use the appropriate way, either going down to the end, which you cannot really, if you've ever noticed now, which is the little town beach down there, they put on the old Willard property, or Borowski, whatever you want to call it, those Willard to me because they were my relatives. The fence, and that's where we used to have the ramp. Well, they used to be just a little fence and a little rope, and you used to be able to turn and everything. Well, you can't anymore, it's a solid fence. So consequently, the only way they can really get approach to this ramp is off Route 109, which is a safety issue. Because people come down through town and they hit the crest on the hill at the church. So now this gentleman, we let him turn, he launched his boat, and about then Dan says, "Geez, we don't have enough chain to connect these." I said, "Geez, I had thought I had enough. I'll go back and get it." He said, "I gotta go back," and it was on Sunday, "I gotta go back and let my dogs out." He'd been out in his boat all morning. By the time I'll come back, I was before him, 5 or 6 are standing up by the church, parsonage there. You can catch it. Then finally, this person comes down. He has lives up on Quinn, I believe, is up on Dame Road. He said, first off, he not accosted, but he said right away to Dan, "You can't do this." Dan said, "What do you mean I can't do it? It's our property. We'll just take it back." "Oh, yeah, I've been here since I was 13 years old, this tall," and he's going through the whole series. I came back and I said, "You can be here all you want. My family's been here since 1700. And I said, "We own this property." And I said, "Let me give you the issue. You got your wife standing here, your guest, and you want to," he had to launch his boat from the highway, and he was good at it. As a matter of fact, you'll see on one of those pictures, his pickup truck is parked on this one side of the pictures. It shows his pickup truck parked beyond the ramp, which works out nicely. And he basically started it on me, and I said, "You're gonna stop right there." I said, "Here's the situation. How about we go up and drive in your front yard, your house, and everything else, and what are you gonna do about it? You're gonna come out and we're gonna swear at you. How are you gonna feel about that?" And his guests would say, "Well, his guests were like this." I said, "That's the situation we have. We're not gonna have our property and get abused for our property." So, but mind you, about a month ago, I came to Jack, requested Jack, "Can we put a fence up?" "Yeah, sure, we put a fence up." So our options, this is the low key that we chose to do. I said, "Look, I propose this, to have just these little things to mark it and to block it off." But it does create the situation, 2 problems. One, the safety issue of people are gonna have to back all the way from the highway, which deals with the state and our police. That's what's gonna be done. The other is, when these people park their boats and trailers, as you notice, this will be the next issue. When they park their cars on the church property, because they slowly eroded the property of the church because of the town road that goes down through there, they pull themselves up onto the bank there, and it slowly is eroding where Teresa's son put up a bulletin board, slowly eroding the property and they park there. Now, put yourself in the shoes, the gentleman that knows how to back the boat up, he did it that day after he realized, I said, it's not gonna stop. We have a choice, we're taking our land back. And here's the situation we have. He said, well, when he turned with the front of his truck as he made that corner, see the little corner to reach the ramp? Because it has to make a turn at the end. The front of that truck went right towards that banking. What we're gonna have is cars parked there.
So
with
what's
trailers.
this, I'm a little tired of the colloquy. What is your proposed solution?
One, you're gonna have to put from the beginning of the street to beyond the ramp, no parking on that side, because there's no way anyone's gonna launch a boat,
So you're
because they're gonna
saying-
hit the car. Let me finish, Rick. Let me finish.
Sure, finish.
I appreciate, finish my part. Someone's gonna turn it and smash a car. That's gonna involve the police. So there's no parking there. The other situation is how we're gonna handle safety. Mrs. Bowlby next door has come back and said that beach down there is constantly a mess. And the fact that it ought to be maybe designated town only, because people go there. When these bass guys show up and other people, they line that street there and they line right up all together. You can't even get a boat. Back before Pope Dam, where the state has it, people used to park their cars and their boats up there. What do the selectmen? Is there any choice? Can they still do that? Now I'm putting it in your hands, Bill, and you, Chip.
No, I'm just asking, what's the solution? Because we're not gonna abandon the boat launch.
Right.
Well, we know that,
We
because the
can
state,
take the property by eminent domain if we get to that point, if we have to. We are gonna rebuild the Lake Street bulkhead, so that whole area is gonna be impacted
I know that,
probably
that's-
next summer.
Yeah.
People are gonna park there, we're not gonna place a policeman down there year-round, or even season, for the whole summer season, so, I mean, I'm not looking at a solution here. It's a public boat ramp, we have public access to it.
it's also the secondary public boat ramp. The original was down at the end, Chip. This one was put in most recently, taking and infringing on. The only reason you have a slip to walk out there right now is because I made the arrangements and had the slips put in. Town put up the money. We made that arrangement, not the town.
Well, we put
Okay,
up the.
well,
Well, I think that really.
I don't know, I haven't been in town all that long, okay, 15 years. That ramp was there before I came to town, so,
But the other one was put in by Lane's End, K.R. Breen, and Carl Hansen. And we paid for it and put it in, the town used it all that time. And
okay,
they told us- and
that's all
and the-
ancient history, David.
Oh, that's
All right,
correct.
so
That's good, but
here's what we have today. We have a situation where it sounds to me like you have some people that come down there to use the ramp that cause a problem
Yes.
for members of River Reach. My guess is 5-10% of the people that use it, maybe more.
No, 100% of them turn into the parking lot and turn, Bill.
And have-
100%.
Right, and
You
have-
started a fence, maybe.
And have for many, many
No.
years, right? Right?
No, they haven't.
So,
No, they haven't used it on that period of time. No, because when White Mountain Survey, when he was on the board here, we went over the situation. Rick
Well,
Chilman.
So
Yeah,
I,
well,
if I can jump in just for a second.
All right,
I don't.
let me just say, now, I've been using that ramp since I moved to town, okay? And whenever I launch, I come in, swing around, and back down the ramp, okay? So for at least 15 years, people have been using the lot to swing. Now, the issues that you're bringing to us are people that are blocking access to the parking places, that are using the lot for, say, an extended period of time, and being confrontational with your members down there. My guess is that of the people that use the ramp and use the lot area, that a majority of them don't fall in that category. I may be wrong.
Not being aggressive, that is
Right.
correct.
Right. So, from my perspective, how do we find a situation, and again, in general, things seem to be more confrontational than
They were.
10 years ago, okay?
We see
So-
that daily in the news, yes.
Right, right, and we experience it unfortunately in our town, in other places along the lake as well as away from the lake.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we get to a situation where we reduce the confrontation without generating a severe limitation on access to that boat
Okay.
ramp?
Well, the final suggestion that we've made to our people is we would put up, we'll do a fence. We will stop it, we'll take back what's ours, which we have a legal right, we're told by the permit officer we can do that. And the suggestion has come up, we're gonna take telephone poles. If this wasn't working, if people were still gonna give us, we were trying to do the soft touch. Okay, that's what we're trying to get them to back down the original way. The original thing that was the way the proposal when the ramp was originally put in, we're talking that ramp now, Bill. Because I was involved with that one too.
What ramp?
The ramp that we're talking about right now, when that was put in. This is the rebuild ramp, that's not the original one that went in there.
No, I know.
That was put in there by KRB, Marine, and the town.
Right.
Okay, not the rebuild one that Moody did. But I'm just saying that we're looking to take
But
back.
that ramp is in the same position as.
No,
the
it
one
isn't.
that-
It's expanded on the property. Look at the survey line. Look at the surveying here. Look at it. The actual approach to it, the ramp is yes, but the approach to it infringes on our part. And we're looking at the fact of trying to take back, to stop them from blocking our way, and we're not gonna let them continue to go through the lot. That's the bottom line is.
So
we're
if
not gonna let
Dave,
them.
can I just interject one thing? So we're just trying to work with the town to come up with a solution that, like David said, that allows us to use our property for what we need to use it as, which is parking, and parking our boats there, and also to allow people from the town to use the ramp. And I don't think it's an all or nothing thing, but I think that we can work with the town so that we can protect enough of our property so we can use it. But there's some things that the town can and would need to do to ensure that people can still use the boat ramp and not have the entire onus of that boat ramp fall on us, even though we have private property for parking, for turning around, and for other things. There is some things that the town can do with signage and preventing people from parking at the end so that boats can go down to the end, turn around, come back, and then back down the ramp. And just by putting up some no parking signs down there, that will allow the vast majority of people to do that. And then that would be the solution for both of us. And the parking solution is really, I don't know how that can be solved because the usage of the boat ramp has increased exponentially since the town put the new ramp in there. There are times when there are 15 or 20 cars parked down there with trailers, bass fishermen, people that leave their boats there, launch them out, and the area is just not set up to handle that. So you put in a very nice boat ramp, but there are no one in the town made any type of plans for how is that going to be used and how is that going to accommodate people so that they can come down, turn their boat around, launch it, and then park someplace. And the only way that the solution is now is it all falls on our property. So again, I think we're just asking to work with the town so that we can continue to use our property and the town can provide some solutions for boat owners to come down and launch their boat.
This is not the first time this has happened. You had this happen at Mare Lake, correct? You've got right there, at Mare Lake, you've got the issue where the lady complained about them parking their cars on her property. Right, the ramp, right there, that was a ramp right there. Then I'm not talking the one over on Lang Pond. I'm talking about right there on 109. That's been the first, that has an issue. It's the same situation, no parking issue. Wolfboro had the problem. What do? They have special areas for the trailers to go in. You know that, and you know that. They don't allow them to park down at Bailey's or down on the dockside, do they? They don't allow them to park at the railroad station. No, they don't. They have areas for them. And as I say, in the old days, a lot of them used to go, we had Bill Severance's house, which was Don's place, and now I'm not sure whom, if the family owns it now, but up at the dam, people used to park up there. But I don't know what permission you have to get from Fish and Game to do that. That's the town's responsibility. Like, I think what Peter's trying to say is, what are you gonna do to provide your part of your job, or the town's responsibility to take care of these cars? Because yes, you take yours home, but not, the great majority of them just park there and walk it off.
They don't park on your property, they're parking on Lake Street, is that what
And
you're
right,
saying?
but then a person
Most
can't
of the time,
launch.
yes. Most of the time.
Well, that's a self-controlling system.
But it's not, because when all those spaces are full and people can't turn their boats around, they're using our property. Because, and the usage is such that.
They're using your property to turn.
To turn and to park and to load their boats and to unload their boats and to throw their trash. If people just came and turned and parked and watched their boat and left, it would be fine. It wouldn't have never been a problem, but it's gotten to the point where the usage of the ramp is such that it's adversely impacting our property. And we feel like there just needs to be some type of a plan to accommodate people, to allow them to come down there, park, load their boat into the water and then either leave. Maybe that's a requirement, is you just can't park down there. There literally is no place for anybody to park there that does not impede either another person's ability to go down and turn the boat around and launch it, or like David said, they're parking on church property, they're parking on our property, or they're parking in the ditch, and that's affecting drainage and erosion of the bank there. So there really is no place for people to park there.
I think you need to go and look at it. These pictures can show you one issue, then the plans can show you another issue. You can see this isn't just the beginning. You check the dates. Check the dates when this goes back to. This goes back to the original, Don Thomas, then to KRP, then to Pat, then to me. So it's not like, the ramps were always built by Thomas Chainsaw Rain Company, Pat, and then the town finally took some responsibility and paid and put it in. The town took this responsibility because the state of New Hampshire came and said, we're going to give access to all the lakes in the state of New Hampshire for boats. Am I correct? And the state came forward and said, we want the towns and everything to try to get access. That's fine. They did that. You spent the money. We spent the money. Some of those original pilings I put in there at my cost. Reg Colby yanked them out. I put them back in. And then this last time when we redid the marina, I made the arrangements for Jimmy to put them in. We put them in, and the town agreed and paid their percentage of the lumber and the pilings.
So I guess we're just here to explain the issue a little bit from our perspective, because obviously we've been talking about putting up something at that property for 5, 7, 10 years. At every one of our annual meeting, we talk about how everybody shares, people yelling at them, people blocking their car. And so over time, and we've tried various things, like I said, with our own trash, we tried to lock it, they cut the lock. And we've asked people to, be respectful of our property, and it just got to the point where we felt like we had to take some type of a step to force the issue to people to understand that this is private property. And all we're here really for is to just explain to you what our situation is, and also to say that I think there are some things that the town can do to alleviate the problem down there, and we can work together on it. Because truly, like I said, there is no parking there. There just isn't. And
So, and you've been in to talk about these things with us before, and there are some things that we've suggested that you could do to help your situation, and I'm not aware that those have been done. For instance, I know we've talked about parking, and we've talked about you guys, the signs that you have there could be more prominent than they are now, okay? So, are people parking over in your area because they're not seeing the signs?
No, they're not parking there. That's not the issue.
Right.
The issue is the fact that they pull in there and block the area, and then when all those vehicles line up along the bank on the church property, then that pushes all of them as they back up more into completely using the area to approach the ramp. In other words, right here, they're going in here. Then what they do is they're coming down like this, circling here, and then going all the way through the parking lot here to get to the ramp. Which, you can look at the map. It actually says, oh, geez, that's ideal. Of course it's ideal, but it's on our property. And now, Dan, the president, has that #1 slip next to that. Just this weekend, past weekend, the person I'm talking about, after he left, he said, Dave, you won't believe it. I have that slip. We come back from being out all day. He's coming to pick up his boat. He's there, and we're trying to come get in. We're saying, can you please move aside because we can get out of our boat? Needs to say he kind of didn't say a lot, but they just, it's like we have a right. We can do, he couldn't even get out of his own boat to get on the slip. Do you think that's acceptable?
So you're right, and this is part of our kind of comprehensive plan to let people know that this is private property. We are putting up better parking signs. We went to, reserved spaces. We're putting up signs with name on them so that everybody understands that this is it. And we have not blocked the entire road. We just blocked enough of it so that we could park our cars here. We put the fence up, temporary fence, and then that gives us enough space to park our vehicles. And people still can come in, turn around, and launch their boat. It's not as easy as it was, there's no doubt about that, but it allows us to park our cars and them to do that. And hopefully that will be as far as it goes.
This was phase one.
But, and hopefully that will solve the problems. But again, we're just here to make you aware of the situation and ask if there's anything the town can do to make it easier for people to launch their boats there or to provide them for parking. Then we feel like that will probably solve the problem.
The fluorescent lines you see there, like I said, I'm over 2 feet in from the town where actually the property line is. Almost 2 feet.
Really?
Yep. If the actual survey was done, it goes more out. If you went down there now, other than the rain slowly move, it actually, the line goes down, makes that corner, but there's another strip goes out about that far that would have gone there and then made the 45-degree angle, whatever that you want to call it.
Because I know it's 37.5 feet right there. I don't know, I'd have to, if there are any pins for this line for the church.
Chelman had, I don't know how many times he had that surveyed because of the Willard property. And every time they never could find a final pin, and I told him why he couldn't find it, because Don Thomas put Bar Brownie's crane in the river, dug it out, and all the dirt went across over on the island on the other side, but the property line still goes by, he finally surveyed it, and when I mentioned that in the last meeting, Rick Chelman was a selectman here, I mentioned it to him. As a matter of fact, he said, Dave, we really have to adjust that line a little, don't we? Yes, and it was. There's another thing in the registry, in addition to this, that moved that line. Believe it or not, the line went, see the way it is right now? That line actually went more to the right, has been readjusted. See how it goes from that slip? It now was adjusted by Chelman and the selectmen at that time with an adjustment of boundary. It goes down through the middle of that slip. The way it was originally. That slip originally was 3 foot wide, concrete. And when Fenton Varney, who's still alive, who can verify it, he tore it out and redid the marina with a header. And he made it a 2 foot wide slip, not a 3 foot wide concrete one. And that line ended up, so Chelman and the others agreed that they would move the line. And the line was moved, and that's recorded at the registry. So there'd be another.
New map?
This is the newest one before that change was made. So actually that line took more away from that ramp. The access to it. It comes right down through the middle of that slip. Because there was a big contingency originally when I bought this from the bank and from Pat, is the fact that maybe I didn't own that first slip. And that went to almost to the court level. When it was decided, when I produced the stuff that Eddie Thomas filing had that showed the concrete thing, I said, I have proof and pictures to show where the ownership is and the original surveying. I have the original Mylar for this and other Mylars too. I have all that information all the way back to when Don Thomas bought it from the original ones that had the apartment next door. I have a lot of history on this. My grandfather's father built boats there. And so the only time it became a ramp.
So is there a newer plan?
No, this is the newest one we have. Now Chelman and them, they might have one, because they did all the surveying, but this is the newest that we have. But we actually have more property on that line. That final line swings over a little more towards the ramp. But with this, regardless of that, you can see that it's fine.
I don't see a utility pole here, and that's what's used for.
Well, the utility pole's out at the highway, right out here.
No, down here by the boat ramp.
Yeah, well, it probably wasn't there. That was put in at a later date. A lot of the poles were put in over a period of time.
This is showing a utility pole.
Is it? Okay. Yeah, and there's a culvert, isn't there now, there's a clean out culvert right down here, right here at the bottom, right opposite the ramp. There's the Jimmy and them, they put a drainage from up here, goes down, and it goes back into the river by the header there.
All right.
But I know you've had on the master plan to go back there and redo that whole banking, which is slowly, it needs it. But here again, you're not gonna gain any more usable space.
Sure we are. I mean, look at the picture. Look at the pilings down on Lake Street.
Oh, I know.
That whole grassy.
Oh, I'm saying, but you're
So
not
there
gonna,
is
it's not
gonna
gonna
be-
go into the lake, you're gonna have the
No,
existing
we're gonna
property.
be, yeah, we'll be to the current bulkhead, if you will.
Yeah. Now, will that provide you with, have you got a plan to show us where the parking's gonna be? If you're saying, you're talking about that, where's the plan?
It's with Tyler Phillips. I thought he was coming in today, but.
No.
yeah.
Because maybe this could answer some of the questions, correct?
Well, it's certainly gonna enhance the parking situation. It's not gonna change anything as far as people turning around.
That's correct.
They can turn around down at the end. It really is just as easy, and it's actually easier to launch your boat because you're coming, up parallel to it, but people
So
park there.
I don't watch it all the time. Again, I've never pulled down to the end to turn around because it makes no sense. And I don't pull a really long, 21-foot boat, okay, and not a big trailer, but I'd have a hell of a time turning around down at the end. There just isn't enough space down there.
This is the problem. The boats, I'm in the marina business. The boats are not 17, 18 foot anymore.
Right.
We just did phase 2 on my marina. Had to eliminate spaces because the fact that we had to spread out and give away.
Right.
We did away with 2 spaces on one side, 2 on the other. Because the boats now, the minimum boat's 21, 24 feet. And people are, most of the time in the old days, the people didn't tow but these small boats, all the others were handled by marinas. Now with the SUVs, people are capable of towing very larger boats. And the turning ability and the ability of people to drive them and back them up has changed.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of the RVs. Their
Yeah,
ability to drive
exactly.
has changed.
Yep.
But we have people in our group that would like to see a full fence.
I'm sure you do.
And we came up with another suggestion. Matter of fact, Mrs. Bolby brought up a little history. Mrs. Bolby said, Pat had poles, Dave, all along there at one time with a rope going through it. And I said, that sounds real nautical. Matter of fact, Dan, the president, said, geez, that sounds great. That would be a lot more soft than a chain link fence, which is what some of them, basically someone was saying, chain link it, gate it, and gate it. Am I correct, Peter? That's what someone was saying that. Let's do
Someone
it.
was.
Huh?
Someone was, yes.
Yes.
But that's not really anything that I.
That's why I suggested this soft one initially to try to get people more oriented to what's there and not taking advantage of our people and their parking. And with the next thing would be telephone poles with a rope like that, but leaving the ends open. But it's going to be going down to the point Dan can't park his vehicle. That's where he parks, right there. He hasn't been able to park there until we just put these out last week. Now he finally was able to park his vehicle there. I mean, the people they go down and fish off their boats. People stand on them. It's just not a healthy situation there.
Well, I mean, you can hire private security if there's a real issue.
Oh, thanks, Chip. You're a treat.
Well, do you want to come and?
Just like you mean, they do what the president does, all his private security and all the Congress, I don't think we're going that. We joked about it.
I mean,
Maybe we could get the
trash.
National Guard to make that wall for us like they did down at DC. That'd be wonderful.
Again, I we're just trying to see, this is just informational as to what our position is without rehashing
This is your
everything.
first cut on a solution.
That's it.
I'll give you my opinion, and that is that if you're hard and fast on having a wall there, then the town is going to be taking a hard look at adjusting that property line so that there's more room for access to the ramp. That's Selectman Marcus's opinion.
We just want people to respect our property, that's it.
I understand that. So part of what's happened historically is that the lot has been used as common access area, and
And it has been blocked off at times and stops people from doing that too,
Right.
mind you.
Yes.
It's never been a free run.
well, and you know what? If you guys want to lose it, You don't want
No
to
one's,
listen, right?
no one's making any threats here or anything. All we're saying is,
You know who's making the threat right now? You, Bill.
no, all we're saying is.
Bill, you're the
we
one that's
just-
threatening.
No,
Sorry.
no.
Can I just, all we're saying is, we have a solution that's going to allow us to continue to park in front of our spaces without other people blocking them. And this solution that we have so far, especially if some people will support it and understand that this is all we're doing right now. And people can still use the parking lot to turn, they can launch their boats. Nothing has really changed, except that we now have the ability to do what we need to do there, and that's it. And we don't anticipate going any further unless the situation deteriorates, which it is a little bit, but this is it. And we just wanted to let the town aware of the situation. This is our solution to protect ourselves, and hopefully it won't go any further than this.
Because the original solution was, Gibson, she's the treasurer, whatever, she came and asked Jack. I came and asked Jack. And she got the same thing from Jack. You can put a fence
But
up.
we're not planning on putting a fence up.
And that's when I said, I don't want to see a fence. I prefer, this solution here is what I have down at my place at Lane's End to control people with no parking on it. I said, I showed them a picture of mine with a no parking thing on it to keep people from blocking other people's access to, be it cabins or right-of-ways, to get to their places within my own development.
I will say a little bit of our frustration over the years is that the town is providing public services at that location. They're providing a nice ramp, but they're not providing any means for people to park. They're providing an updated ramp, and they're not giving anybody instructions on how to turn their boat around and launch it. And then people are coming off the lake, and there's no place to put trash. So it's an attractive hazard. You're putting something out there, a nice boat ramp, but all the ancillary things that are required to go with that, the town refuses to provide. So what's wrong? We've asked for years for the town to provide a trash barrel there for people. They come off their boat, they throw their garbage on our property.
And the town did have
That's correct.
a trash barrel down there.
When Wood was your selectman, he had the apartment upstairs in the apartment building there. And he saw every bit of this. If he was here today, I know Chip, you beat him up, but at the same time, he had all of the he actually said that, he saw the problems. And he actually worked with me last year trying to resolve something with the trash because they pick up certain parts of the town. And I even said, we will contribute to that. We just need to get involved because they keep such a mess. Going back to what you were going, Bill, I know where you're going. The town had a dumpster there once, and the biggest thing is people just love to leave on a Sunday, and what they would do is, the dump's closed. And this goes back to, be it our past person in charge of the landfill or Fred Sargent, it doesn't matter, but they would come by and the dump be closed, so they used to take and, we haven't got time, we'll just put it in there. It would be overflowing, so the town took the dumpster away because it became a nuisance.
So it was there for use of people
Yes.
that were using the ramp, okay?
Yeah.
But what it became is a substitute for taking stuff to the dump.
Absolutely.
So that people just said, well, I'll just throw it here.
Mhm.
That's not unique. This is true any place where
That's
you put
happened
on a
for
trash barrel.
years, for
Right,
years.
exactly.
We have one down at Wharf Landing, and that works fine, and they have them all throughout Wolfboro. They're designed in such a way that you can't throw a trash bag in there. They're just for the cans,
The dog poop.
the bait, all the things that come off of boats, and people can just put them, it only has a small opening. And I think that's totally different than what we're discussing now, which is a dumpster. We're just talking about some place for people to throw their line, their dead bait, their bottles, their cans, all this other stuff that comes off the boat, because frankly, they're throwing it all on our property, and I have to clean it up every day. So I don't think it's a lot to ask. There's one down at the public beach at Wharf Road. So why can't the town put one there too?
I know this goes way back, because when I was a police officer, I got called by the chief and said, go up onto Sodom Road, Dave, there's trash right on the side of the road, would you go into it? Yeah, I'll go with it. Find out who did it. It was on a Sunday. I had to go up there, got it, took it home, opened it up, found he made one mistake. He had the doctor had all of the magazines from his office thrown in there. I called him up, and we gave him 24 hours, and his son came, picked him up, and we didn't process any paperwork against him, just said, please take it home, leave it in the camp, or go to the town dump when it's open. And that was the only The chief didn't let me push it any further than that. He said, that's good enough, Dave, okay, and that was it. But so it's an issue that I know we've had for years, that people, when they leave, they've got it in the car, they don't want to stink it all the way home to Massachusetts, so they find a place to throw it. And I'm sure he probably has that problem today, where people like to throw it along the highway, but this is the problem, we're having a problem, that it's not only the trash, it's the dog poop. You know, they put it in the little bags. We picked that up Sunday. When we were there doing those barrels, I went over by the bulletin board, and Dan picked up some paper, and I picked up the dog poop and took it over in the bag and put it in our trash bag. I have it on my own road. We've got new signs, like you say, signage, new ones with a dog that we just put them up a week ago, that people, you know, pick it up and take it with you.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the boat business, or you were, I don't know if you still are or not, but let them leave their trash in their boat and take it home.
Yeah.
They're not leaving their boats there. You're the only people that get to do that. So, I mean,
It's a tougher situation for you and for us today, because the average person is today, or not the average, a lot of people today are not being courteous to their neighbors or to the environment.
yeah.
And I think it's the environment more than anything, and and if we ignored it, we could take the stuff and literally just take it across the street and drop it again. And then eventually, when the police would get a call, and what's all this trash, and he would have to give it back to you guys and say, well, what are we gonna do about this? So we need to take care of a safety issue, of a rubbish issue, and a parking issue. That's what I've got down right down here. Parking, ramp, parking, safety, fence.
And trash.
And, well, yes,
Yep.
and trash.
All right.
That's an issue that Peter has been dealing with, I know. I didn't have that on my list. That
And a
was
porta
more-
potty, can we hit a porta potty too?
We can do anything.
I'm just asking, you know, while we're
You
listening.
get a porta potty down there, then it becomes a public restroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't need to have a boat to use a porta potty.
No.
No, they take their porta potties and take them up to your bathroom unit and then pull them, instead of putting them at the dump station, they pull them over your toilets and it goes on.
Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll, I think keep talking about it. We need to get together with Tyler Phillips, our engineer,
Yeah,
and see what sort of mitigation that's gonna do for your
I'll leave that
issues.
copy with you,
All right.
and
For its historical value.
Yeah, exactly.
it's the one the bank would buy too. They're hard. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Mr. Ford, you put a sticker on your daughter's jet ski the other day, or your jet ski.
All right, so we have to talk. Can we come back?
Okay. So let's go.
I'm sorry, could I ask a question?
You may.
Sure.
Regarding the parking there, I thought I was gonna talk to you in private over here.
Yeah.
Is the town enforcing the 4-hour parking limit on that area?
Is it posted as 4 hours?
It is not.
Okay.
However, it's being enforced
It's a
as,
town ordinance.
but it's, the signs say clearly, no overnight parking, 10 PM to 6 AM. And my family occasionally parks a jet ski there, my daughter to go to work, and it's maybe there 6 hours or 8 hours.
So
But
we need-
is the
we
town
need-
enforcing that ordinance, or?
So we should be. So if our signage is not,
You can't enforce it if there's no sign.
well, if our signage needs to be updated,
Right.
then we need to do that. So,
Yeah, so if you want to enforce it, and the ordinance is, if that's the ordinance, and that makes perfect sense, and a lot of people park there, but if it's going to be enforced as 4-hour parking, because the sign should say that, because nobody knows it's 4-hour parking, it just says 10 PM to 6 AM,
Yeah.
just to let you know that.
Okay.
all right, thank you. All right,
Yeah, they never park overnight, but 4 hours, 4 hours, fine.
yeah. Jim? Yeah.
To both places, the Pier 19?
Well, I think we need to make sure the signage every place is consistent with the ordinance. And I thought we had changed the signs. And then we put
Lots of
some,
some new ones done
Yep.
in order, I don't know what happened.
yeah,
But we also have to, go over the ordinance too, as far as any conflicts with what had been passed. That's the ordinance from back in the 70s, I think, that says no 4 hours,
yeah.
so it's passed the town meeting, so.
All right, I apologize, we're on a kind of a, I got 25 minutes to get through the rest of what we need to do before I leave, and you won't have a quorum then. All right, notice of intent to cut for 16-2-11.
I'll move we sign.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have a lease between the town and the New Hampshire Boat Museum for the mooring at 19 Mile Bay.
And that's gone through town council, so.
Yes, this came
He
from,
created it.
this came from Rick.
Okay,
Right.
I'll move we sign that.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have an administrative abatement that we voted to grant last week, but we didn't sign the document. So it's already been passed, right?
Yes. It's just signatures needed.
Okay. So, and why are we redoing the deed for 15-1-1?
Because it came back from Bonnie and Walker, and Mountain Road or Mountain was not capitalized.
Oh, all right,
So I capitalized it.
okay.
And the other thing is, down here on this date here,
Mhm.
somewhere on here, there's a date, and it said June 4th, which is when the deed was recorded, not when it was actually written, so he wanted the written date instead of the
Okay.
date that was
All
recorded,
right.
so we
All right,
updated
so
it.
we need to sign the amended
Yeah.
deed.
Yes.
All right. I think that's for signature. Okay, action items. We have a new member for the Tuftonboro Fire and Rescue, Kenneth J. Lang.
Chief talked to you about him last year.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
And
Great.
he just wants our approval,
Mhm.
so I'll move that we allow the chief to hire Mr. Lang.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving on to correspondence. Got a notice of violation, a trespass zoning violation down on Chase Point. Got a notice of decision, I'm sorry, notice of hearing by the Board of Adjustment on August 10th. Wetlands permit by notification for 38-1-4. Another one for 11-1-3. A thank you letter from Life Ministries for contribution. Annual notice from the Mirror Lake Protective Association of their annual meeting, which is Saturday, August 14th at 9 a.m., being held in the training room at the Tuftonboro Fire Station. And we have another permit by notification, and I don't see where the property. 38-3-11. All right. Selectmen's update.
Yeah, I had a long conversation with a member of the board of the New Hampshire Electric Cooperative, they're looking for us to reach out to them for broadband. And the arrangement that they made with Sandwich, which they're now installing, is that the cooperative, the electric cooperative pays to have it all hooked in, and any money that the community gets from the federal government in these infrastructure bills that are coming through would inure to the benefit of the electric co-op. In other words, if they got a check for $200,000, they'd give that money to the co-op to offset the costs. The co-op's also applying for federal monies as well. And they had a meeting with the president of the United States Electric Co-op Society or group or whatever, who, and a few of their members, who said there's no reason why you shouldn't build this, as opposed to what Wolfboro decided to do, which was to contract out to a cable company to build it. So their co-op's intention is to build it and run it as a cooperative, so that the rate should be pretty reasonable.
So they need some sort of a document from us?
Yeah, a letter of,
Okay.
and I'll get together with Kathy.
So if we can get a sample or whatever, I think that makes sense to.
Right. Because we could they're looking for towns with large percentages of co-op members. We have,
There aren't many that have a larger percentage than Tuftonboro.
right.
There was actually a letter, and you guys seen it, I put it into your files a couple times, from New Hampshire Co-op requesting us to use the funds that you receive, that you're capable of receiving from the American Fed Act towards the broadband.
Right.
And we have to request that by, I think it's August 16th,
Okay.
from the government, from state.
All right.
But I'll try to pull out that letter, I saved it, because I want
Okay,
you to
and
come
we'll-
back to it.
Then we should work on our request to the state, and I'll work with Kathy on getting a letter together for the co-op.
Great.
If that's what you want to use the funds for. Because there was another idea, I sent something to your grant writer requesting what about using it due to COVID, the size of the police station that is not adequate. Can we use some of those funds towards building the police station? I don't know what direction we can go in with
So are
that.
they're
We're
not
running out of
necessarily
time.
mutually exclusive though?
Right, and by asking for the money, we're not isolating the co-op as the
Right.
beneficiary.
Okay,
We made that
good.
agreement yet.
Good.
Right.
Alright.
Okay, anything else? I don't remember, I don't think I have anything today.
Okay.
All right, do we have any other business other than we do have a short non-public we need to have?
We do.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did give you an email from Tyler Phillips. He wants to know if you'd like him to write it or if you want to write it. You guys reviewed it. I know you said
so-
something about it, Chuck.
I'm sorry, I missed your update, so let me go through this. We're still waiting on certificates of insurance from the concert vendors.
You spoke with him, but I never saw
Yeah,
him.
and he told me that he had or was receiving the ones from the concert vendors.
Okay.
So, and he was still trying to
So I'll
get
just catch him tomorrow when
Yeah.
he's in and see if I can get a copy of it.
Okay, we talked about having a volunteer and staff get-together at Camp Belknap, and Tuesday, September 21st is the date that we're now looking at, right? That works for them?
That works for them. They're asking
Yep.
if it works for us, and I said I believe so.
All right. So we got a road conditions survey update sheet from Leaks Region Planning, and Jim's gonna provide.
He's working on it now, and then I'll plug in the numbers into the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay, and then he can update his survey from that,
Right,
right?
correct.
August 16th, which is a Monday and a day that we don't normally meet, we're looking at as a date to do a ride around with the road agent. How's that seem to you? Monday morning.
Sure.
And yes, so Tyler wants to know if we would like him to write the recap for the state. I think he's got a better handle on all
Oh,
that
yeah.
than we do.
Right. I think we can provide him with some statistics that he can plug in, which would be, I think, get it some meat.
Yep.
So I'll
Yep.
work on that.
All right. Have I missed anything else, Kathy?
Not that I know of other than what I just gave you. Should
Yep.
work with-
Yep. Any public input?
You have a planning board meeting Thursday night, but
We-
basically doing housekeeping.
We do have a planning board meeting. We don't have any hearings scheduled for Thursday nights.
But on the 19th, we're gonna continue with the cell
That's a
towers.
continuation of the cell towers, provided that the information is back by then.
Okay.
If it goes the same as before, it'll get kicked out a little further. I mean, it's gonna be waiting on the report from the third-party engineer. And I think he's a pretty busy guy, and it just takes him a while to get through it all.
Can you tell me who that, I'm gonna call him the little guy, who did most of the talking at the meeting? Do you remember what his name was?
Well, for which meeting? With David Ladd?
No,
Oh,
planning board. It was about cell towers.
Oh,
that was.
it was the applicant. Yeah, it was the
He was
attorney.
representing, he was doing most of the talking. You remember what his name was?
No, but it's on the package. He's the guy that submitted the package.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we need to go into a non-public for personnel. RSA 91A, colon 2, Roman 3, and what's a,
Personnel, I'll have to look.
okay,
I'll second that motion.
Marcus, and yes?
I'll be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.